Greetings and welcome to College Planning with the National Alliance for the Advancement of Haitian Professionals. I am Dr. Ketsia Alerte Sadler, your moderator for this webinar series. And I am so excited for this episode of our series because those of you out there who are interested in becoming video people to go on TV or even be on the background, you're in for a treat. So I hope you're going to buckle down. Hope you came with your notebook, iPad, pen, paper for those of us who used to take notes on pen and paper. But get ready because we've got professionals in the industry in different areas who are going to impart all their knowledge, expertise, experience to you. But first, I want to start and thank our partners in this endeavor. Of course, we have the National Alliance for the Advancement of Haitian Professionals, and we also have Golden V, Parent Matters, and College Cafe, of which I am the founder. So there they are on screen for you to see. So if you see them around, say thank you for giving us this opportunity to share information with you. So of course, first of all, you want to know who actually is going to be on the air with you. First of all, our first guest is Miss Esther Dillard. She serves as a reporter and anchor for the Black Information Network, BIN. It's a 24/7 national audio news service owned by iHeartMedia. It's broadcast on 38 stations across 34 markets, serving over 100 gospel, urban, and hip-hop stations with hourly national news updates. She is a graduate of SUNY Buffalo with a degree in English and also has a master's in communication from Syracuse University. Our next guest, Armon Sadler, is a multimedia journalist from Englewood, New Jersey. Currently, he's a hip-hop reporter at Vibe magazine. He is also the creator and host of Stay Busy with Armon Sadler. It's a podcast centered around responsible discussions on the entertainment, business, and culture. He has his Bachelor of Science in Communications from Cornell University. And we will have also with us, who's not here at the moment, Mr. Dorian Alerte, who joined WUTR as the sports director in April 2025. He was a media and content reporting intern with the Buffalo Bills and has a bachelor's and master's in communication studies from Kane University in Union, New Jersey. And also we have Miss Ylna Edmond, who is a production and talent logistics leader. And she has worked behind the scenes on some of the biggest stages in entertainment, from the Super Bowl halftime show to MTV's VMAs to Nickelodeon's Kids' Choice Award to projects at the White House. She has over a decade of experience in content creation, studio production, live events, and talent management. She's collaborated with stars, worked with influencers to build campaigns for brands like Nike and BET, and helps bring ideas to life. Her degree in TV and radio is from Brooklyn College. Mr. Nicholas Franklyn, he started his career at PBS Channel 13 in New York City as a video engineer before moving into sports entertainment recording and replay editing. Some of his clients include major networks like Fox Sports for the NFL and MLB, TNT, TBS for the MLB, NBA, and NCAA, ESPN, the Yes Network, and CBS. In September, he'll begin his 26th year as senior EVS editor, which he'll explain what that is later on, doing playback for the NFL on the Fox B show with Joe Davis and Greg Olson. He is a Hampton University class of 1987 with a degree in mass communications. And our last but not least guest is Ms. Tevra Francis, who navigated from a 20-plus year career in healthcare and compliance and legal support to using her diverse experiences and creativity to form her own company. It's called Tev Media LLC, and it's a resource for marketing, consulting, and branding. She also has, through that, NJ in Color, a media platform dedicated to connecting to the diversity of North Jersey, and founded that in 2018. She has a Master of Science in Health Administration from the University of Central Florida and a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology from the University of South Carolina. So thank you everyone for joining. And so let us get started. So my first question for you is, when you started your undergraduate career, the major you graduated with, is that what you had in mind? Yes, no? And if it wasn't, tell us what you thought you were going to do. So let's start with you, Armon.
Yeah, I knew since the summer after my junior year of high school that I wanted to major in communication, and I stuck through that. all throughout college. Definitely very thankful for it. I think a lot of things I learned in the classroom and through my internships have applied to what I'm doing now. So definitely glad I didn't have to jump through a bunch of different majors. I know some of my peers have been like pre-med and then jumped to something just completely unrelated. So I'm glad that I kind of knew what I wanted to do and was able to stick with it up through graduation.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Dillard, sorry, I should have said Mr. Sadler. Ms. Dillard.
Well, no. At first, it was an English degree because at the State University of New York at Buffalo, they did not have really a communications degree that connected to radio or television. So my focus was on at least getting to be a print reporter, and I felt that was really important. So I really focused on my writing and got an internship working at the Buffalo News for 2 different summers in a row. So that helped me kind of at least get started. And I had some work in radio because I did have a radio station that was connected to the public radio station for the Buffalo area. So I would do some news reports for them, but it wasn't really big and it really wasn't connected a lot to the student body. So it was just kind of hit or miss. So that's how I kind of got in. And I wish the college had more connection to the television radio world, but I kind of felt like it kind of gave me an edge in being just extremely persistent and finding different ways around, you just find a different path. Like if I couldn't do it this way, let me try it this way. If I couldn't do it this way, then so I was kind of like a chameleon trying to figure out how to get my foot in the door. And that, I think that helped me.
Okay, thank you. Miss Edmond.
Hi. Oh, no. Hello?
Hi, yes.
Okay, hi. I think I knew without a doubt that I wanted to be in television and radio, and so that's exactly where I majored. I think my level of resiliency came in the door of like, when I went to college, I just thought I could just start working at any like TV network or whatever. And they mentioned that I had to do an internship. I'm like, well, what is that? And they were like, you need all these credits. So I would start like cramming in all these credits, like taking all these classes just so I can like accelerate the timeline to, to just start my first internship. And so that's really how I started. I started in television and radio. That's exactly the major I had in mind. And that's exactly what I went for. I think if anything, I was just a little bit ambitious in terms of like, how soon can I do the internship and not necessarily taking the other classes,
Got it. Okay. Mr. Franklyn.
Yes. Can I flip it for a little bit? I had no idea. I had absolutely no idea what I wanted to do, where I wanted to go. No idea. I just fell into things, and things just through the grace fell into place. So, and I eventually fell into media. So. That's my story.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll share a little more later.
Okay.
Okay. All right, Miss Francis.
Thank you for having me, everyone. So I'm a lot like Mr. Franklyn. I went to school thinking I was going to be a sports psychologist, and my college didn't really curl over like that as far as when I got there. And I decided, all these years during my high school years, I was always a communicator, always kind of a diplomatic type of person. But I didn't think to join any of the journalism, organizations or change my major. I just graduated with my psych degree and tried to figure it out. Now, in my career afterwards, I always had an affinity towards communication, writing, the marketing pieces of it, the establishment of materials to get the word out, advertising, all that stuff. That kind of came over time as I navigated my career path. But initially during undergrad, I was a psych major, and I was kind of just good at a lot of things, but I didn't really pin down exactly what I wanted to do. I just got out and got a job. So if the follow-up question is what would you advise, I would say, explore everything, and don't feel like you can't change a major because you're on a certain path, because I feel like I probably would have saved a lot of time had I had that undergirding of like a journalism degree or an English degree even, to kind of help with a lot of what I do now.
Well, that's definitely a question that we're going to address. So I kind of want to build upon everyone's journey to where you are now. If you can take like 1 or 2 minutes and talk about, okay, so you graduated college and you realize this is what I want to do. Or if you didn't know, then how did you get to where you are? So we'll start with you, Ms. Dillard.
I'll start with graduating from grad school, because if I go back to college, undergrad, it was, well, I'll do it quick. Once I went out of undergrad, I did want to work, but many places said that you have to have experience. So what I found was I tried to do internships, but they were only such limited, because I had already done internships at the state. I had worked at the Buffalo News, and the Buffalo News was great because it really gave me a solid bunch of articles that I could put in a portfolio, so to speak. And someone said to me, why don't you try going for grad school? So I went to grad school, Syracuse University, and said, go for television. That's probably what you could do really, really well. So I took the articles and such and got in. And once I graduated from my grad school, I got out, and it was still the same thing. You had to have experience. And even though I had internships, it really wasn't giving me the in that I needed. And because I was one who would learn everything, I learned everything as much as I possibly could. It wasn't just writing. I would learn how to do the tech stuff. I learned how to do camera. I learned how to do audio. I learned how to do I was teaching students while I was in grad school how to edit, because a lot of people had problems with the editing thing. I learned the ins and outs of the editing board and everything. So I knew how to do that. So I was able to get a job in the tech side. And I started as a person that worked as a master control operator at a public television station, putting up the tape for Barney, all the Sesame Street and everything else, that kind of thing. I got really, really tired of that quickly because it wasn't very stimulating for me. But a friend of mine who was working there at the time said, why don't you work at the television station, the news station? I was like, yeah, I'd love to work there, but I'm only going to offer me the behind the scenes job. He said, yeah, get behind the scenes. I was like, but that's not what I want to do. He said, but use it as a way to get your tape so you can get an opportunity to get on the air. And I was like, that's a great idea. Because if you're in the background and you're a person who is union, you can touch all the equipment. If you're not in union, you can't touch all the equipment. So what I did was in the evenings, I would watch the news, watch all the reporters, see what stories I liked, because I could get a hold of the raw tape with all the interviews. I would take little pieces of those interviews and I'd put them on my own tape. And then at 3:00 in the morning, when nobody was there, I was in the studio editing my stuff to put together my own reel. And then on weekends, I innovatively asked one of the photographers, can you take me to the corner of X, Y, and Z where that shooting happened? Do you remember that story? And I would do a stand-up. And then I take the video and I put it together. And then I eventually got myself another opportunity to be an intern staff reporter at a local station. And that was my first start in Rochester, New York. And the guy saw my tape. He said he loved it and said that I think that you should be somebody that would be part of our crew. And that's how I got my first job on the air. And that's where I'm going to stop because I'll go on for a long time.
Well, that's good. Thank you for sharing that. All right, Miss Edmond, talk to us about your journey. Hello?
Hello. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So when I started, I wanted to be in TV. I interned in TV. And I remember throughout, just in our class, what we were told was the minute you get an opportunity to get your foot in the door, you go in. It doesn't matter what it is, just get your foot in the door and you can figure everything out later. So my beginning actually started off in the music industry. I used to intern at a label and I liked it. I didn't love it. I think for me, going in, I knew that I wanted to work with like all types of artists, and I didn't want to be limited to a roster. And so I did a great job at the internship that I was at the label, and they were able to refer me to MTV at the time. And so I started interning there. But I just remember that I was just so in love with just like their environment and learning. And this was like, maybe, I don't want to age myself here, but I'm going to say it, at least 10 years ago. And, you know, it was just like a different time back then. You know, everyone was just there to learn and soak up information. And so I would get in there early in the morning. One of the responsibilities I had was to like queue up the music videos, because back then they were on like VHS tapes on betas. And so I had to queue them for this acquisition meeting. And I remember one of the videos that I saw was like the Beyonce, like, single ladies put a ring on it. And I was just like, what is this? Right. And I was just like so fascinated. But in doing that, one of the department heads actually was there early that day. And we were just in the lounge, just kind of like just doing the dance. I mean, this is before they put on MTV and everything, you know, and I was just like, oh my God, if I can just do this for the rest of my life, I'd be so happy. Right. And I'm just an intern. So I think back then I just didn't realize like how much access I had, but almost like also the ability to like work with people, learn, ask questions, dabble in different departments. And so I took that and I ran with it. So once that internship was over, I did another internship with the production team, another internship with the post team. And then I went over to post story. So I dabbled in different things, and I realized that I just definitely wanted to be in TV. I loved working with all types of artists, celebrities, everything. I didn't want to be capped. I wanted to be current on what was happening in society at the time. And so from there, you know, this was around 2008, around the housing market crash. And I remember like one of the things that my then boss had told me was like, you know, we're going to see a lot of people like be let go and X, Y, and Z, which is very eerie because it's kind of like what we're going through right now. I think even more crazier. But what I remember at that time was just like, you know, if you're offered anything, just take it. I maybe had one semester left out of like college back then. And I was offered, the same person that saw me queuing up the music videos had offered me a role. It was like a freelancer 6-month gig. And it was either that or finish the semester and graduate. And I decided to put college on hold, which is probably not my mom's favorite conversation with me. But, you know, she already felt the way of like not pursuing a traditional career. You know, it's like the engineer, the lawyer. Like, she's like, what are you going to do with TV? They make no money. I'm like, actually. So I say all that to say, I went through this like whole journey where I found like it was something I was truly passionate about. And it just happened to work that you know, that person that I was with, you know, offered me a role. That 6-month role became 9 months. And then a year later, I told her, I was like, hey, I never finished college, you know, and I would love to just kind of see what we can do. And she was like, just take the time off, like leave early and then finish it, you know? So that's kind of how I got into TV. And I know we'll like do a deeper dive in a little bit, but so yeah, that's kind of how I started the journey into the space.
All right, thank you. So we're going to pause on that question so the rest of the panel has some time while I welcome to the scene Mr. Dorian Alerte, who is joining us. So Dorian, thank you. I know you just came off of your broadcast from work, but we're excited to have you here with us. We've introduced your bio so the audience knows who you are. But we're going to ask you our first question that everyone has answered already, which is when you started college, was the major that you graduated with the one that you intended to have when you first walked onto the grounds of Keene, or is it different? Did you graduate with a different one?
No, I definitely graduated with a different one. I went into college as a biomedicine major in the STEM program at Kean University. And yeah, it definitely is a lot different from communication studies.
Okay. All right. And we'll get into how you decided to switch up and everything. All right. So we're going to continue with the rest of the panel. So yes, we're sharing our journey from college to what we are currently doing. So Mr. Franklyn, it's your turn.
My turn.
Mm-hmm.
I'm taking notes from everybody. Ms. Dillard, we actually did the same thing. PBS, you know, Master Control, queuing up the tapes and Barney and all that good stuff. So my journey in college, I did mass communications. Didn't know why. That was at Hampton. Didn't know how I got there. Actually, I know how I got there. I walked in a room and saw a book that said Hampton, and somehow I ended up at Hampton anyway. And decided to go into communications. Why? No idea. you get in the thread. I really had no idea what I was doing and what I wanted to do. I think I wanted to do something in fashion. So anyway, I did the radio station in college and I did mass communications and all that good stuff. And don't know why, but I just did it and I finished it and I ended up at PBS and was doing that same thing you were doing, Ms. Dillard, for about 4 years. And then Montel came to our studios. Montel Williams, that talk show, came to our studios, and some freelance guys came in, and I met this guy in a back room. Sounds shady, right? I met this guy in a back room who had a book, and he would write in the book in a back room with a boosted phone line that he got from somewhere. And I asked him what he was doing, and he said he was crewing sports. He crewed sporting events. And he said, "Are you interested?" And I was like, "Yeah, okay, that sounds cool." So that's how that happened. And I ended up getting me a job. I ended up getting a job for a hockey game. And then one thing led to another. And do I talk about what I do now or no?
You can share a little bit.
One thing led to another. So basically, I just started doing sports replays for different events. Like when you see the replays during a sporting event, baseball, basketball, hockey, whatever, you see those replays on your TV. And that's what he had me doing. So that's what I ended up doing. And that's what I've been doing in different instances for years. But really, everything I'm picking up what everybody's putting down. Miss Tevra said, explore everything, right? And Ms. Dillard said, learn everything. And I think that's really like the key, to kind of be open to everything. And when that opportunity or that instance happens, it happens for a reason. Just jump into it, because you never know where you're gonna end up. You know what I mean? So that's kind of my journey, and that's where I'm at right now. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Miss Francis, talk to us about your journey from college to now.
So it's been a long and winding journey, to say the least. But in the quickest nutshell I could put it in, I graduated. I started working at 1-800 Medicare was a program that used to help people with their Medicare setup. So I started working there it was a call center. And from there, went on to working in more Medicare and TRICARE. These are all different types of insurance programs through the government. And these were all, my first jobs. Went on from there to do a series of legal compliance jobs that were still focused on the health insurance component. However, these were startup agencies that were created, and so a lot of the marketing, if anybody knows about startups, you're really just taking like an empty box and creating this whole, your services, your processes, and also your market, your setup, everything. You're doing everything. So we kind of had all hats, and then the hats that I kind of fell into were the establishment and the creation of processes, and also going out and getting the business. So that was the sales, that was the creating the ads, the print ads, the exhibits, creating the exhibits, going out and doing the exhibits, doing speaking engagements all over the country. I did a lot of those things, starting out in that thing. So that was kind of like my foray into kind of a formalized communications role. Not in the ways of TV or anything else, but in healthcare, health insurance, and then I went on to work for a major hospital in New York City, which is also I worked on their websites. I worked on their front-facing patient correspondence and forms and all of those things. So all that stuff is in the communications umbrella. It's not as it's not as fun. It's not MTV, but it's still something that's necessary, that needs like a journalist or somebody who has the affinity towards who's good with words, who's good with communicating concepts, to people from like I did a project where I had to express, I had to package something for the personalized genomic medicine department, and that's like, you know, that's just high level science packaged into a way that you and I can understand it, and I can sell it to, you know, the layperson that's trying to get some type of a genetic testing for their son or daughter. Like it's all in several different ways. It's helpful to have people like us, creatives, in many ways on that scientific side, because people on that side do not have, um, sometimes even the tolerance, the patience, or the words to express complex concepts to the layperson so that they understand. And so that's where I come in. So as now, and actually right now I'm sitting in the SeaWorld parking lot. So sorry, I'm all sweaty but
Okay.
we are on vacation. But my personal business, my own business, I still do this for small businesses. I still do this for different types of businesses. And then I started a platform because I just wanted something that was specific to New Jersey. But in any industry that you see, there's always a marketing person, there's always a branding person, there's always a communications person behind the scenes that's helping them get whatever message across. Every commercial you see, every ad that you hear, no matter what it's for, there's somebody like you that's going to be sitting down there writing a script, writing out the you know, whatever it is, the strategy to get that product or concept forward so that the masses can consume it. So just think of it that way. Like, you don't have to think of it as only radio, only TV, only X, Y, and Z. Think of it as when you see a New York Presbyterian ad, somebody had to think about how that ad is going to even look, or what music's going to be played, or how it's even going to look visually. Like the actual, you know, is it going to be in black and white? Is it going to be in color? What is the mood? All of those things are communications and creative leaning roles, even in healthcare, science, STEM, and everything else.
Okay. Thank you so much. Mr. Alert, talk to us about your journey.
Yeah, so like I said, I was biomedicine to start out college. After that, heading into my sophomore year, I was kind of like, okay, what do I want? What do I really want to do? Like I was doing well in my classes. Everything was fine. It was more so, okay, I'm not 100% passionate about this. And so, you know, ended up deciding to have a communications degree. After speaking with the communications department, I was like, okay, this could be a path, but again, still kind of didn't know what I wanted to do. And I took a sports communications class, and that one actually gave me the direction that I wanted and that I needed. So ended up writing for the school newspaper. Then COVID happened, and it was like, okay, what am I going to be doing for the next year and a half? And at that point, we really didn't know what was happening. From that point on, got to cover the athletic department in a different way. Kind of, instead of covering live sports happening, I was covering the changes going on within the department, so on and so forth, which was a lot different than usual. And actually, during that exact same time, reaching out through social media to people within the industry saying, hey, you know, I'm a 19-year-old kid. I want to be in this industry. How did you get to where you are? Would you be willing to have a conversation? And some people were like, absolutely. Some people just sent, you know, some little paragraphs of advice, and, you know, had some phone calls, had a couple of email conversations back and forth, and got some really good advice. And then, you know, we head back come fall 2021, and it's my last semester of college. And I was the sports editor for the newspaper. I was also starting out as play-by-play for the different sports going on and creating relationships like that. And from that point on, ended up having a really good relationship with the president of the university. And so I remember he and I were having a conversation after my graduation that spring. He was like, hey, what are you doing? And I'm like, no, I don't really know yet. And he said, okay, come back for your master's degree, and, you know, just continue doing that, continue doing what you're doing. And so I took a sports writing class. I ended up having conversations with my professor who actually got me a freelancing opportunity with the Asbury Park Press newspaper. And so now I'm getting paid for my writing, which is great. I also stayed involved with the newspaper. I stayed involved calling games at Kane, and it was great because now I'm getting this networking opportunity. I'm also getting opportunities to continue practicing as a college student and helping out the people around me as well. The professors for the newspaper actually asked me to be I don't remember the exact title, but I was an editor for the whole newspaper. And they were like, hey, can you help this person out? Can you help that person out? And it was kind of a way just to get those writing chops in. Graduated again with my master's degree, and then a couple months later moved out. Actually, about a year ago today, moved out to Buffalo to intern with the Buffalo Bills. And the internship was great. I had a lot of different writing opportunities. It was so much more fast paced than college, because now instead of writing one article a month, now I'm writing 1, 2, maybe 3 a day. And I'm running around. Game days, can be 12-hour days, especially driving to the stadium at 9 a.m. because I learned very quickly how passionate Bills fans are about their team, and you can get stuck in traffic real bad heading to the game. So it definitely was an interesting experience. And same, having conversations with my mentors about, okay, what do I need to do to get where you guys are? And they were like, well, you need to be shooting things on camera. You need to be editing your own stuff. You need to learn as many skills as possible, which is the common theme here, learning as many skills as possible. So even though my job with the Bills wasn't on camera, I was getting practice writing every single day. I was also, in addition to, while I was getting my master's, I was on social media for the athletics department. So now I'm editing videos. I'm working in Premiere Pro. I'm working with all these different platforms to understand how to edit. And I also, again, spoke with my mentor, and he was like, well, if you want to get into news, you have to have packages done. So I asked, hey, how do I shoot a package? And he told me. So now I don't have a camera. I'm shooting with my cell phone. I'm going out to the practices, and I had some great relationships with the athletes at Kane. And I was like, hey, can I pull you for 5 minutes? I know you're super busy, but can I pull you for 5 minutes, get this interview done really fast? And from that point on, I took all this stuff, put it together in a reel, and ended up applying for a job in Buffalo. Didn't get that opportunity, but they were like, hey, there's this opportunity in Utica, New York. Would you be interested in doing that? And then, just go wherever that takes you. And I said, of course. So ended up moving out to Utica, and here I am 4 months later.
There you go. Thank you for sharing that journey. And Mr. Sadler, talk to us about what happened when you left the hallowed halls of Cornell University.
Yeah. Before I get there, I just, for everyone who's listening is going to see this, I think there's so many gems that have already been shared, just whether it's about learning skills, creating opportunities, being willing to pivot, and also it being okay to not know what you want to do, because you might end up somewhere that you couldn't even imagine that's better than anything you could have, planned for yourself. And I think that's kind of what happened with me. I went into Cornell wanting to be a sports broadcaster. Quickly got humbled when I applied to internships at ESPN and learned that, those are very competitive, and you're not just going to walk into ESPN and be Stephen A. Smith. And so that was my first lesson in learning, being okay pivoting or trying something else and, getting to where you want to go later on. So great opportunity came up. I had a family member who worked at a music publication in New York, interned with her, got a very early taste of what that setting is like and really liked it. And so went back to Cornell for my junior year, started writing for a startup blog, also got a radio show at Cornell. And just these different music opportunities kind of kept coming up for me. And so I felt like I was getting a sign, or that music journalism was kind of choosing me when I wasn't ready to choose it. And so I kind of just ran with it. The following summer, well, no, not summer 2016, summer 2017, I interned at the sorry, the Source magazine. The owner of the Source was a Cornell alumnus rather. And so networking, another important skill that you'll learn in any field. It's so important to network. So I got to intern at the Source that summer, wrote so many articles, did a lot of just intern work. And the biggest thing for me was I wanted to leave there with a job because I knew I was going back to Cornell for another semester. And so the internship was 3 days, but I told them I would come in 5 days a week. I'd be the first person there. I'd be the last person to leave. And so it was a lot of late nights in New York. I live in New Jersey, so that commute is not fun. But I just had such a great experience there. And that was obviously a really big setting, the Source being one of the most legendary music publications. Working there was a sense of pride in that. So I went back to Cornell, graduated. And then I learned pursuing music journalism and getting a full-time gig, very difficult. It goes back to what some of the panelists said about wanting jobs and them asking you for experience. You don't necessarily have the experience yet. You kind of need to get a job to be able to get that experience. So you're asking me for something that I don't have yet because I need to get a job like the one I'm applying for that you want me to have experience for. So from there, kept writing for a bunch of different startup blogs. And I also learned about freelancing. For those who aren't familiar with what freelancing is, it's you might write for a publication, you might do video work for a publication, you'll do some type of work for them, but you're not a full-time staff member. You get paid for it. You know, you get to say, I wrote for Billboard, I wrote for Complex, but you're not a full-time employee there getting the benefits of all that. And so I freelanced from 2018 to 2022. So I freelanced for 4 years. But also in that time, I created opportunities for myself. I started my own page where I could write freely without having to, have my ideas critiqued by an editor or an editor who maybe didn't understand my ideas, shooting them down. I also started my own podcast, which is a music podcast. It's now evolved into a full entertainment podcast. But yes, I started that in 2019. Fast forward to 2022. I got hired at Vibe magazine, where I currently am. I'm the hip hop reporter there. So almost 3 years now. And most recently, my podcast, which I've been doing for almost 6 years, we signed a deal with a pretty major entertainment platform. So yeah, hard work, being willing to pivot, making a lot of mistakes, learning, networking, all those things kind of came together. But the biggest thing within my journey was just like seeing signs that I was capable of doing something, and also falling in love with music journalism and just running with that. And I've kind of been able to come full circle and get opportunities in the sports space. So what I originally wanted to do isn't what I'm doing now, but I'm able to still operate within that space and kind of fulfill part of what I wanted to do originally. So very interesting journey. I couldn't have predicted it. There have been so many things that I've been able to do that I just never planned to. And I think the things that you accomplish along the way that you didn't plan for sometimes feel better than the thing that you're so focused on with tunnel vision. So I'm just really thankful for my ability to adjust and pivot and go with what, was kind of thrown my way.
Thank you for sharing. So for those who don't know, Armon is my younger son. And so coming from a parental aspect, when you're watching your child who you see graduate from this school and you're kind of thinking, okay, you're going to go one way, and then to totally go somewhere different. So it was a lot of, you sure you don't want to have a 9-to-5 job? Because this place is hiring. But, it's good to see how he stuck to his guns. And like you said, you had to pivot, work hard, do things you didn't always want to do, but then ultimately reach and achieve a goal that is even better than you could have imagined. So I want to throw a question out that wasn't in the set that was sent out. Do any of you see what you're doing now when you think back to yourself as a child? Do you see maybe some parts of you as a kid who might have, you see the child in you, the 7-year-old, the 10-year-old? Do you see parts of you maybe doing what you do now? Because sometimes when I talk to parents, and I'll use Mr. Sadler as an example, like he always was the child who was into the arts. He loved to sing. He was into music. So to me, it's not surprising that he's got a career where he's around music and he's a very good writer, because when he was a child, if he wanted to do something, there would be a long statement written and he'd want to read it to let you know what he wanted to do. So the writing all came naturally as well. So just want to throw that out there. And if you don't want to answer now, you can think on it, but you can come back to it later on if something possibly say, oh yeah, when I was a kid, I remember I used to do X, Y, and Z, and it's kind of related. Anybody want to jump in now on that, or you want to wait till later? Go ahead, Mr. Alert.
Yeah, I think for me, it was all of my best friends were athletes. Like they all went on to be collegiate athletes, playing in college, played in high school. I was the odd one out that just wasn't athletic enough to play with them. But at the same time, it was I also was speaking, did a lot of different speaking things, I guess. It was like, whether it was something as small as reading a passage in church or being asked to speak about my experience for something else. I feel like I was always kind of public speaking, which is very ironic because I don't like public speaking, even though I do public speaking every single day. But I feel like, again, part of it just came in, even lunch table conversations. We get to school the next day after a game. Hey, did you see this? What do you think is happening here? What do you think about that? And it's little things like that to where, and I also love telling stories. Like, I think that was the number one thing for me. And I remember to this day, we did in elementary school, like the little Valentine's Day cards, and someone was like, you always have a fun story to tell me. You always have something really great to say. So that was always just at the top of my mind, just telling stories. But on top of that, just speaking, being around sports, it was kind of just second nature to me.
Got it. Thank you for sharing that. Anybody else, or you want to wait till later? Ms. Dillard.
Yeah. As a kid, when I was little, I used to always write up small little plays, and eventually kind of went into the church space because they wanted, pageants for Christmas and for Easter and for Black History Month, and so I ended up doing all these plays for the for the kids, and then I somehow coordinated the parents to make costumes, and then I got somebody to do the audio so that we could do a whole dance thing, and then got the light guy to do the strobe light. I mean, I was a production kind of kid, so I liked making something that was small into something that you could actually see. And it was in different modalities, but yeah, I definitely could see myself as where I am today. In fact, my mom, I think the first time I ever did anything was when I had a 4th grade project, told me to do something that, because I had went to this school, which was like it was a Lutheran school. And I had to take a parable and do something interesting with it. So I actually made one of those, I took a box and I drew pictures and stuff, and I put it on this, I don't know how, remember way back in the day, well, I'm dating myself now. Way back in the day when they used to show these pictures on a screen, and you'd hear the sound of this voice of this narrator say something, and then you hear the sound doo doo, and then they changed the picture. That's what I did basically on a big box that I had a roll of paper that went in front of the screen. I made my own television set basically, and then I voiced my voice on a tape recorder, long time ago stuff. You hit the record, and my mom heard this voice, and she said, "What voice? What is that? Whose voice is that?" And I said, "It's me." "That's you?" And I said, "Yeah, you should work on that." So that's what I did. So my voice was always something that I used as a part of my life. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Can I chime in?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So when I was young, sorry I got kicked out. I had to log back in. But when I was younger, I remember, when I was in high school, especially, I was always a consensus builder. I was, junior class president and senior class president. I was pretty good at rallying the troops and getting things done. Thinking about things on, on different, on a kind of a larger scale than what I guess my classmates would. And then convincing them to follow up with me to do whatever I had in mind, like just, high school stuff. And then going into college, to Ms. Dillard's point, I got involved in theater as an extracurricular. When I wasn't, working, I worked a lot in college, but I used to host this poetry slam type thing. It was called the Foxhole, and we used to do that on campus. And then that kind of turned into, I was co-directing plays, and then I co-directed or stage managed a run of a play called Smoke to Joe's Cafe. So that kind of just got my, creative theater juices going. But I didn't want to pursue it because I have a mom. My mom and dad are Jamaican. This either lawyer, teacher, doctor. They didn't understand. I want to go do theater. I want to go be creative. They didn't understand those things. So you kind of put it on the back burner. But a lot of those skills that you learn, especially even with dealing with personalities, getting people to kind of to accept you as a leader, all those leadership personality traits that you have to kind of develop, that was kind of developed in those days of creating something and seeing it through all the way to the end. So don't, like I said earlier, don't discount anything, explore everything. Don't discount your experiences because they all kind of build up over time. And I'm still building. I'm in my 40s and I'm still building something new every day. So you don't really lose anything. You kind of keep stacking more and more experience and skills on top of it. So
yeah,
that's my 2 cents.
And just to piggyback off that, I'll be really quick, I promise. I think there is something definitely to the core with like curiosity, because for me, I definitely, at one point when I was younger, I saw this like dance in my elementary school, and I was just way too fascinated for someone in that grade level. And I just was thinking about like, how did they come out? How did they know when to come out? Why did they change clothes? I just had all these like questions. And I think the thing with like my mom also just letting me just explore and dabble in different areas was I was able to kind of go through like my own process of elimination, if you will. And I think that's super important for like, this next generation. Like you might think you want to do something and then you get in, it's like, this is not for me. I thought I wanted to be an actor. I'm shy. I cannot talk to no camera, but I realized that my skill set is behind the scenes. I'm not supposed to be. And like it literally like my skin can just melt off. So like I had to go through acting school to realize that wasn't for me. And then I realized, I was like, well, maybe I'll be a director. And I'm like, wait, this is just way too complex. Like that's not for me either. So it's like literally going through those like different areas to see like why that's not for me, but why they're so vital for the entirety of like the show or whatever it is that you're watching. And so for me, I think in the end, the curiosity was always there, but I felt like I had to like my curiosity had to lead me to this role that I'm in now. And even now it's like I'm wearing 2 different hats. There are times where I'm in production, so I'm like, running the logistics for that. But because I know what an actor does, I know what the director does, I know how all these parts come together, I'm able to be even greater at my job, And then on the talent side, I know how to work with different personalities. But all that, I had to like go through this like journey of curiosity, if you will, to get me to this place. And I think that's the one thing I could impart on like, these upcoming students. Is just more so whatever you have an inkling for, just go for it. See if you like it. That might be the thing that, actually works out for you. I never thought that I would be in production. I thought that I was going to be a dancer too at one point. So it's just like, as I'm hearing all these stories, I'm like, I had like maybe 6 lives that I wanted to pursue, and none of them panned out. I'm glad they didn't, because it was not my calling. But I had to go through that to realize like I'm exactly where I need to be right now. So I just wanted to add that tidbit as well.
Thank you. Mr. Franklyn, did you want to add to that too? I feel like I see the gears turning.
No, because you forced me to think about
it's all good.
What I wanted to be. And I'm like, yo, you know what? I wanted to be a pilot, but I've been in TV for like 30 plus years, so I don't know what to tell you. But I didn't really know how to be a pilot. I knew I wanted to be a pilot, I guess, but getting to that, growing up in Brooklyn and getting there, didn't compute at all. Not at all. But anyway, so now I'm in TV. So there you go. Pivot, Mr. Sadler. Pivot. Right? You right, man. Pivot is the thing. Be open, pivot, all of it. Learn This is great.
Well, like I said, that last question was more for the parents who are in the audience listening, because sometimes, like I said, as a parent, you have an idea of what you think your child should do, or they always said, "Oh, I want to be a doctor." Like, well, you have to be a doctor, but sometimes when you look at what the child is doing and their activities and the things they say, or their curiosity about something, is really what they're going to end up doing. And in this climate where college costs a lot of money, and we have this big bill that just was passed last week, which is really going to impact education. It's so important that we really have those conversations with our children and look at our kids and see what it is that they gravitate towards to support their intended majors, college and career choises. Because that's too much. We can't just throw away $200,000.
We gotta be. We got anybody else parents? I'm just curious. Yeah. All right. How old? Like, what age range we talking about?
16.
16. I hear you. All right, I got a 26 and a 21. Right. Yeah. But as parents though, we gotta be like also really open. And be able to listen to them when they say and watch the direction that they're going in, and be open as parents to whatever they decide to do. You know, like I thought my son was going to be a soccer player, but he's also in television. So you know, we gotta be open with the kids too. You know what I mean? To listening to what they want to do, what direction they're going in. If they don't want to do college, you know, if they want to go down a different path, you know, and we got to be ready to expand our minds, you know. So
absolutely. Thank you. So let's talk about some of the challenges along the way. Everyone kind of touched on it a little bit, but I especially want the ladies to chime on if you found things were more difficult because of your gender. And if you found that some of the men were maybe moving up faster in their careers. So I'll start with you, Miss Edmond.
Yeah, I think that there are times for sure where I felt like my gender may have played a role in how decision-making took place on a project or whatnot. But I think for me at the end, like I was always taught, like, regardless of all that, just show up, like, you know, show them why you're in the room, right? So like bring that 100+%, bring X, Y, and Z. And I feel like maybe like honestly, 1 to 2 occasions where something like that happened, right? But it backfired, and it backfired in a really bad way where I still had to come in and kind of course correct, you know? I think for me, I don't necessarily see it as a challenge. I just see it as an opportunity to like rise to the occasion and show up. I think so many times, like, you know, you're expected to like perform a certain way or to react a certain way to a situation. And I think maybe because my mentors kind of instilled in me, you know, how to move in certain scenarios. So that's probably why I never saw it as a challenge, but more as a reason to kind of solidify my place at a table, or solidify my place on a project. And yeah, I honestly, I can't say too much of it has been like my gender, you know? Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Franklyn, any challenges you want to share?
No, the usual. We know. Everybody here is, you know, got a certain.
Well, we know, but
things in common.
Might not know.
Yeah. I don't want to go there.
I will say just to also provide a different perspective, some of my challenges, because I know we're like encouraging people to just pursue paths. I know freelancing came up a little bit. For me, one of my most challenging areas in this industry has been more so the freelancing side, and it's been more about, where does the next role come from, the next project, right? And how do you stay current? How do you stay on people's radar so that you are at top of mind when something comes up, or that, you're not being outbidded by someone else. And I feel like for me, that has always been more of the challenge than whether like my gender or like my race. I feel like once I've worked with a group of people before, and I would love to believe, this is also 100% true, that I've always been, to some capacity, we've always worked together again. I've never had like a one-off situation. I feel like it's a small industry, so people tend to circulate in different roles on different projects, so you get to see a lot of folks. But I think for me, it's always been, when I didn't finish this at the end, but like when I first started, I took that job and I stopped going and I put college on hold. I freelanced, right? But then I got a job at Nickelodeon, and it was for about 2 years. It was staff, and this is like the middle of like the market crash back then. And so for me, the challenge was like, so what do I do? I stay in this role for whatever, or do I go out and pursue other passions, like other areas that speak to me? And so for me, I took a risk. I left a stable job and I on a 3-month contract, right? And so that was also a challenge for me, because what if it didn't work out? I could have been unemployed. I would have, it was crazy. I had like 40 paid vacation days, stock. I mean, it was like a sweet parachute, and I wanted to try something else, but I will never regret that decision. I stand by it, And so for me, 3 months became 6 months, a year, 2 years. And now in this situation, especially given the climate, it's a little bit challenging to find consistent work because, mergers and whatnot. It's just a different climate out there. So the challenge for me has always been doing what I love, but finding consistent work. And what do you do in that time in between, right? So I feel like there's always going to be like haters, this, whatever, but that's just noise. If you come into a room and you know what you're there for and what your role entails, you do that and you do it 100, 200%. And at the end of the day, it will never be your work that's questioned. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Thank you.
One thing I want to say as far as challenges really quickly, and I have to go because the orca show starts in like a few minutes. So with as you navigate your career, and you ask based on like being a woman, it does get harder. No matter what people say about having it all, being able to raise children and have career, it does get so much harder once you start having children. If you're going to maintain a fast pace, like Ms. Enoch said, relevant career, staying relevant, staying on top of the industry, being a player in the industry, having children kind of gives you not to call it a challenge, but it's another. I don't want to say it in a negative light, but it is another hurdle to have to navigate. So for those of you, I'm assuming that the audience, as students and young people, get your education, start your career, pay attention to, and I don't want to get too deep into people's ideologies, but pay attention to, how you want your life to go, so that you're not having to navigate additional challenges on top of being a woman or being Black or being whatever. You can actually focus and get to the career that you want. And then when you're comfortable, you can then get to the place where you can say, hey, let's, have a family or whatever your plan is. Because I know as I'm a mom of 2 now, and it's very hard to stay relevant. It's very hard to go to events. And I have a partner that's reliable and helpful and all the things. But it's still very hard. So just make sure that when you're ready to start your careers, that you're paying attention to these things so that you don't make any missteps on your way to being the top communicator that you want to be.
Okay, thank you so much.
I love that.
Yeah. Mr. Sadler. Oh, go ahead. Mr. Sadler, you want to chime in? Oh.
Yeah. I think the biggest challenge for me was that while I had some people that I knew in this field, I didn't really know how to get to the destination that I wanted to get to. And so there was a lot of just trying things. And when you're a young, hungry music journalist, a lot of places that maybe aren't established and maybe don't move with the proper ethics in the space will take advantage of that and sell you a dream and say, oh man, you come right for us, you put in a bunch of work, you'll get paid eventually, you'll get this eventually. And so I was stretching myself very thin working for a lot of places that weren't necessarily run by great people, and I didn't know any better because I was new in the space, just trying to get my name out there. And so it took me some time to really kind of be a bit more firm, and also like understand that I was talented enough and capable of, writing places where, one, they operated properly, and two, they would also pay me. Because that's what I was looking for. I was looking to, fund my lifestyle and pay all student loans and all these things I need to take care of. So that was the biggest challenge, was just kind of seeing people and places for what they actually are. The music journalism space is also, in some ways, it's kind of like high school in that it's a popularity contest. So like, you might be the most talented person, but you may not be the most well known. And I sometimes felt like there were people who were getting opportunities because they networked better than me. But there's a phrase I want to use, but I want to not, be vulgar. But they networked better than me. In certain instances. But I think the biggest thing for myself was just not comparing. There was a lot of opportunity there. The field has changed a lot. So anytime people come to me asking about freelance opportunities now, I'm like, I don't even know where they are. But fortunately, back when I was coming up, there was a lot of different opportunity there. So I took advantage of that. And I established relationships too, not just transactional things from people, but ways that I could add value to what they were doing, and they could also see my value. And I mean, I still encounter challenges to this day, even though I'm full-time somewhere that's it's a pretty well-known brand, and have some really good things going on. Like, the challenges don't necessarily stop, but I have the knowledge now on how to navigate them. And sometimes you can't necessarily you can't necessarily overcome them. You kind of just have to work through them. But yeah, definitely in a much better place than I was several years ago.
Thank you.
Can I try something?
Sure, Mr. Franklyn.
They used to say in my church, I want y'all to pray with me. Listen, this industry, it's tough. It's tough for people of color. It's tough for women. When you get in the industry, you're gonna see there's a lot of givens. There's a lot of shady. There's a lot of negative. It's tough. But those are givens, but don't let them be a hindrance to what it is you want to do. They're there. They're going to be there. They're not going anywhere. But if you really want to be in this industry, in this business, in the entertainment or whatever, don't let it be a hindrance. Try your hardest. Okay, that's kind of the positiveness, that I want to get across to any prospective student or anyone, that's in the industry right now and going through it and dealing with what it is you got to deal with. So don't let it be a hindrance. It's there. It's not going to go anywhere. Get through it.
Okay.
Peace.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. All right, Mr. Alert, talk about your challenges, if any.
I had plenty of challenges going in, but I think that one thing that I had said to a lot of students when teaching journalism at a college, I would tell the students that you may have challenges, but do a lot of what everybody else has been saying, is finding your path, whatever that path is. I found a lot of students who I'd have, some were like really into anime. And I was like, well, if you like anime, why don't you pursue what you love and still put that as a layer on top of what you're doing? I said, let's say the person is really into medicine or medical, like our friend Tevra. She just left. She's into the medical field. Use that as your means of making it be the medical reporter, the person that is all medicine all the time. You like tech, do the tech stuff. That's your thing. There's this one guy who is now famous because he would do reviews of things on YouTube, and now he's online, and he is fabulous. And that's all he does. And he has made a career out of it. So find whatever it is that is your nugget that you just really are passionate about, that maybe not everybody else is passionate about. Maybe you like gardening. There's people that is their thing. They could tell you how to grow anything with it in any place or or anywhere with anything. So I'm just trying to give people an idea that it doesn't have to be Entertainment Tonight. It does not have to be the mainstream media that you can be successful at. And I'm not saying that it can't be, and it can't lead to that, but find something that no matter what, if you didn't have to get paid for it, you'd still like doing it. And that is what you should be doing. And if you like that, that's where you should go. So I always try to encourage students to find their passion, whatever that passion is. Yeah. Your son, he loves music media. That's music, and that's his thing. So that's focus. So everybody has something that they're really passionate about and that they can bring it to the forefront and use it in media.
Okay, thank you.
Also, when you get to college and stuff like that, y'all can help me with different organizations. Find organizations to join that maybe, has your interest, like for instance, like NABJ, National Association of Black Journalists and stuff like that. Like join that early and get involved in that, because that's like networking. My brother, Mr. Sadler, networking and seeing how other people move in these different organizations. NABJ is just an example of one organization, that you could jump into and experience different things,
Yeah. I just wanted to add to, start now. You don't have to wait for the perfect day to have the perfect equipment. I think what I also just on a personal side, what happens with me is sometimes people come in with these great ideas. I want to have this podcast. I want to do this. And there's no better day like today than to do anything you want. You have, any tutorials out there. You have so many platforms. You have so many tutorials. I wish that I was in college right now, because I would kill the game all over again. You know what I mean? I just wish I had the access to all of this now, but you guys do, and I think the one thing I would also really be remiss if I didn't say is, I would also, if this is, the audience is a class of, grads, college students, just look to your left, look to your right, because what happens is that everyone comes up together. The entire class of my intern folks, back in the 2000s, we don't need to, worry about the dates and all that, but we're all in the same, same class. We're all in the same industry. Some people over here, some people over there, but it's nothing for me to pick up a phone and make up and ask for a favor or to do X, Y, Z. It's because we all started together and we're in the trenches together. So if you want to have a podcast, I'm sure there's someone who wants to be the host, someone wants to be the audio person, someone wants to write. Get together, start something, and do it now, because what also happens is what's an opportunity if you don't have the experience, if you don't have the institutional knowledge of knowing this equipment works better, this is the best mic for this. I would start now, and I would start with the people in your media circles, because you guys have that one commonality, is that you guys want to go far, you have a dream, and you're just trying to figure out how to get from point A to point B. So go on that journey together.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, that's some good advice. Absolutely. Mr. Alert, you want to chime in and share any challenges?
For sure.
He's got a challenge in Utica, Mr. Alert. My God.
Yeah.
We don't like going to Buffalo for football, man. Or anywhere up that area, bro.
Hey, that's my hometown, Buffalo.
Is it?
Hey.
Ooh. Winter's rough.
that
Go ahead, my
definitely was
brother. Go ahead, my
challenge
brother.
in and of itself. Is just you know, I literally had not lived anywhere out of New Jersey. I went to college in New Jersey. I stayed home. I commuted throughout college. So literally packing up my car and moving somewhere where I've never been. I don't know anybody. Like it was definitely a challenge in and of itself. In that now I make all these great connections, friends out in Buffalo. You know, I have a group of people, and now I got to move 2.5 hours away to Utica, to where again I don't know anybody. I literally don't know anybody other than my coworkers. I have a friend that's at Syracuse, but Syracuse is an hour away, so it's like I don't have anyone really close, and to get home is another 4.5 hours. So that definitely is a challenge by itself. I thank God every day I have great family. I have great friends that like I spent I don't even know how long on the phone with my friends yesterday, just talking, catching up. You know, like we get on and play video games together every now and then when we have free time, because my other friends are in medical school and all these other things. So like our time is very limited, but that's definitely a challenge in and of itself. And even another challenge definitely was just starting out. I remember, you know, after I got my master's, I was able to teach as well. So I'm teaching as an adjunct professor, and I was teaching business and professional communication. And the students were like, "Oh, like, can we see your LinkedIn page?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll show you guys." And at the time, I'm still looking for a job as I'm teaching, and the students are like, "Wait, how many jobs have you applied to?" And the number at the corner was over 300 at the time, I think it was, and they were like, and they were asking me, "Are you sure that's what you want to be doing?" And I'm like, "No, it definitely is." But that was a challenge. But I think the biggest challenge once I actually got into was finding a way to stick out and, you know, be myself a little bit. And that kind of goes into the conversation we were having about passion, is that, you know, I have I love sports. Sports is literally my life now, but I have other things that I'm interested in. And so that honestly helped me out a little bit when it came to creating relationships. And so I'm having conversations with these NFL players, and the one that sticks out of my mind is I'm sitting at a press conference with Von Miller, and you know everybody's asking me, "Oh, Von, what do you think about this matchup coming up next week? What do you think about that? What do you think about that?" And you know he's giving the answers. Von loves to talk, so he's giving his answers. He's like, "Yeah, you know, I'm excited about this matchup. This team's going to be really good." So, and it's at the end of his press conference, and he's looking around like, "Anyone have any other questions?" And I was like, "Yeah, so you posted this anime meme of Goku on your Instagram page. You know, what does that mean?" And his face like lit up, and you know all the other reporters are kind of looking at me crazy because they're like they weren't necessarily in tune with that. But you know now it's me and Von literally having a conversation about Dragon Ball Z, and it's like that was just a one of one experience. And I remember I saw him in the facility a couple weeks later, and I was like, "Hey, thank you for not looking at me crazy for asking a Dragon Ball Z question." And his response literally was, "That shows you pay attention to what we're actually doing." He was like, "We love obviously we're going to talk football. We're going to talk football all day. But it shows that you actually pay attention to things that we do that some other people may not even pay attention to or even care to ask." So he was like, "Thank you for doing that." And you know, I use that to have other conversations. Rasul Douglas is a New Jersey guy. Same with Dion Dawkins. So I was like, "Hey, Dion, like, you know, so-and-so said, hey, what's going on from back home?" And he's like, "Oh, you know him?" And like, you know, having conversation with him, Rasul Douglas, I was like, "Hey, so there was this in another press conference. Hey, there was this conversation about New Jersey football being the best in the country. What do you think about that?" And now me and him are chopping it up. And so there were definitely times where I was like, "All right, how do I stick out?" And I just found being myself, I'm this kid that loves anime. I'm from New Jersey. Hey, let's have these conversations. And they love those type of things.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I just wanted to jump in real quick because I think Mr. Alert, it feels weird calling him that. That's my cousin. But Mr. Alert spoke to a really good thing about just like the humanity of the people that you work with. I think I can speak for us all when we all work in really cool jobs that we love doing. But I know for me personally, I'll speak for myself personally here, like the opportunities that I got, I started to definitely feel very good about them. And I had to remind myself often to stay down to earth and remember who I was and remember that the people that I talk to, I consider myself a special person, but it doesn't necessarily make me special to everyone else. Everyone else may not see the things that you do the same way that you see them. And I think one of my biggest challenges was not feeling supported, in various ways. And I would often like go really hard to send my work to my friends and, kind of forget the fact like they have lives too. They have jobs, they have things that they're working on. And so, there are going to be a lot of people who support you and they may not necessarily be loud about it. But the most important thing is to feel fulfilled and gratified yourself, like have that intrinsic motivation and that intrinsic fulfillment, because if you live by the cheers, you'll die by the booze, or you'll die by the silence. Like there may not even be booze, but there will just literally be silence, and people might read everything you do. They might watch every video you put out. They might watch every reel. They might be paying attention to what you're doing, but they just might not publicize it. And so you really have to continue to do it for you, keep your head down and keep working and not try to force people to support you, but also don't lose yourself in the optics of the job that you have. Like, yeah, you might do some really cool stuff that you might feel really excited about and it looks good in an Instagram post or it looks cool in a tweet, but having grace and having some, I don't want to say humility, because a lot of people mess up the definition of being humble. It's actually not a great word. But just remaining down to earth and having grace in everything that you do will make people want to support you more, because people support people. They support good work, but it's a lot easier to support someone who is a decent person than someone who is a terrible person that does cool stuff. So one of my biggest lessons of the last 10 years, and I'll probably have to keep, reiterating it over time.
And real quick, just on that point too, and just feeling supported. I honestly, like I said, I have great friends, I have great family. Like Armon said, he's my cousin. Auntie Ketsia is literally my aunt. And so like I feel like I've always been supported. Like Armon is someone who I've leaned on a ton over the last couple of years, especially like, hey, I have this idea, I'm trying to flesh it out a little bit. And he's always so willing to have conversations with me. Even though, he's became a Jets fan the last couple of years, and being a Bills employee was, we weren't necessarily the best of friends at times, but, we definitely, he's been a resource for me that I've definitely leaned on a lot, and I appreciate him for it. I tell him all the time, I appreciate him for it, because it's not easy. It's not easy having, having these ideas and these dreams and everything that you want to follow, and not necessarily having, someone around you to be able to. But I'm blessed enough to have Armon, who's kind of not necessarily in the exact same space, but he's navigated the space to be like, okay, well, this is what I did. It may not be what you do, but this is how I went about it. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you. So we've only got about 7 minutes left. So we've talked about your experience. We've talked about the importance of internships, networking. So any other parting words, or maybe some classes that are being offered at the collegiate level or at the graduate level that students should be pinpointing if careers in your areas are where they want to go? So we'll take these. And Esther, we'll start with you. If you want to share anything academically or whatever.
Sure. I just wanted to say I have to leave by 8, but I will share these things. I would take a course on fact checking, especially now these days with a lot of things with our AI. I definitely want to brush myself up on, because and even in the field, and taking, periodically something that really helps me to be able to check whether or not something is really truthful or not. So you want to make sure you do something like that. AI. great. A lot of people are using it. I would dive headfirst into learning as much as you can on how to use the tools, and not just Chat GPT. There's a lot of different tools now that people use with editing. You can do a lot more things than what has been done in the past. So you want to keep yourself updated on what is out there and what you can use to make yourself faster and more relevant. You want your creativity there. I'm not saying give your creativity to the AI. I'm saying use your creativity as a individual, as a writer, as a creator, and then boost yourself. You're just kind of cyber boosting yourself into moving faster and maybe being able to get out there faster with your stuff. Other than that, those were two main things that I would say. And then, of course, LinkedIn, very good resource in terms of putting your resume on there, making sure that you have connections, having a professional profile online. If you're going to do anything, realize that anything that you do online will follow you. So be careful what you put out there, because
No
it
doubt.
will come back to bite you in the behind if you're not careful.
No
So
doubt.
being able to understand that you have a digital footprint and your footprint is going to be there. So be intentional when you put something out online and when you're putting together your projects. Think about why you're doing it, what your hopeful goal is, and be willing to defend it or say that you made a mistake. So own it, whatever you have. Those are the three main things that I would say that I would encourage people to do.
Okay, thank you. Anyone want to add a little bit more to that or something different?
I would say, like, we've spoken about networking, but I think networking is also something really important in that, I have a group of friends that we talk all the time just about, okay, what are you guys thinking? What are you what are you guys going through at the moment? We check in on each other periodically. So that's something, and I think reaching out and getting a mentor. We've all spoken about that. Like I said, Armon is a mentor for me, but I also have other mentors in the space that I always ask, hey, can you take a look at this reel? Can you take a look at this writing sample? Can you take a look at this video that I did, this package that I did? So I think that's something else that is really important that I think is helpful. And on top of that, I think the 2 classes, or maybe 3 classes that helped me out the most: sports writing, but first and foremost, introduction to journalism, and then my digital video production class. Because in that class, now I'm learning other skills other than, okay, I'm like, I know I want to write, I want to be on camera, but now I'm learning what it's like being behind the camera, editing, and learning all these different kinds of skills. I learned audio editing, I learned video editing, so on and so forth. So I think that those are the things that have been most helpful for me. And yeah, like I said, the peer mentoring and peer networking has been so helpful, because there's a lot of people in this space that are trying to navigate it at the exact same time, and it's kind of like, okay, I don't want to say struggle, but like we're literally going through this at the exact same time. We have similar experiences, even though they might not be 100% identical. How are you doing? What are you going through? Hey, I'm thinking about making a pivot from this to this. I'm thinking about doing this. Oh, I have a story idea. Can you help me flesh it out a little bit? So I think those are a couple of things that I would say that have helped me out a lot.
Thank you. Anyone else? Any classes, courses, any other advice?
Yeah, real quick. Public speaking class, writing class. I don't remember the exact names of the courses I took, but there was a communications writing course that was very difficult but very helpful. And then also take stuff that you're passionate about, that sounds cool within what you're specifically looking to do. Again, I don't remember the exact names of the courses, but I know there were a lot of classes that I just genuinely looked forward to going to because they were surrounding cool topics within the communications landscape, or I don't know if that's a proper word, but yeah, to take things that you might actually be interested in that aren't necessarily just supporting you strengthening a hard skill.
Thank you.
Don't be afraid to not know. I took notes. Don't be afraid to not know. Don't be afraid to not know. Also, be willing to bounce to places like Utica, New York. Be open to that. Mad respect to you for that. Mad respect to you for that. Picking up and going to Buffalo, picking up. I know I was joking with you. Picking up, moving to Utica. Don't be afraid to do that. I don't understand how you actually talk to a Jets fan and gave him respect because he really had nothing to say for like the last few years. But we ain't gonna go. Sorry, Mr. Sadler. Also, colleges and universities, they're not to narrow it too finely, but their sports media departments and their sports programs, they're a rich resource to jump into and work to. You can do different things. You can like work with the team. You can shoot. You can edit. You can write. You can social media, and all that is out there now. I got friends, you know, young people in the business that what they do is social media for teams, for leagues, and that's what they do. So all that you can get into at the university, at the college, it's a great place to jump into, and then it can lead you into Buffalo. Work for the Bills, intern for the Bills. That's dope. I see the interviews all the time, and you are right smack on. When you talk to them like they're human beings and they got other things popping off besides the sport, hey man, that's your lane, bro. You might have found a little lane, bro. Think about that. That was a dope story, you know? That was dope. That was truly, that hit me, you know? Especially with Von Miller, that fool, you know? Yeah, so things like that. So just be open to everything. The college and universities in and of itself are a rich resource that can launch you into what it is you want to do.
And real quick, on that point, it's also, you don't have to go to the biggest school. I didn't go to a big school. Kane isn't a big journalism school either. Does it help a little bit to go to a bigger school? Sure. But I had a lot of extra experience in not only covering, if I went to a bigger school, I might have been covering football, basketball, baseball. Yeah. Being at Kane, I was able to cover field hockey, soccer, men's, women's volleyball, swimming, all these different opportunities that I might not have had at another school or another place. So that helped out a ton, and just getting involved, again, building those relationships, those were big for me, just in being able to network and make those types of opportunities.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Well, I want to thank my guests for this hour and a half of impactful information. I hope that our students and parents are walking away with way more than they imagined they would have gotten this evening. So again, I want to thank everyone for coming on. Armon Sadler, Miss Ylna Edmond, Mr. Nicholas Franklyn, Dorian Alerte, and in their absences, Miss Esther Dillard and Miss Tevra Francis, who had to jump off. But thank you so much for coming on this evening. And of course, we want to thank our partners, NAAHP, Golden V, Parent Matters, and College Cafe for supporting this endeavor. And on that note, I want to thank our audience for sticking with us. And we hope that you will join us on our next broadcast. But until then, be well, stay safe, stay humble, stay busy, as Mr. Sadler's podcast says at the end of it. Stay hydrated. It is hot out there. Drink your water, get your vitamin D, and just enjoy yourselves. And we'll see you all soon. Thank you so much.
Blessings. Thank you.
Thank you.